Now, Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta has launched domestic debt exchange program amid Ghana's financial crisis. Now, this was at a press conference which ended a while ago. In case you missed it, here is the press conference.
4th December 2022, we are gathered here today to invite holders of domestic debt to voluntarily exchange approximately 137 billion Ghana cedis of the domestic notes and bonds of the Republic, including Estla and Dache bonds, for a package of new bonds to be issued by the Republic. The debt sustainability analysis demonstrated unequivocally that Ghana's public debt is unsustainable and that the government may not be able to fully service it down the road if no action is taken now. Indeed, debt servicing is now absorbing more than half of total government revenues and almost 70% of tax revenues, while our total public debt stock, including that of state-owned enterprises and all, exceeds 100% of our GDP. This is why we are today announcing the debt exchange, which will help in restoring our capacity to service debt. This is the path towards resetting the economy to a more stable one capable of addressing the development challenges of the country. The reasons are quite clear. COVID-19 pandemic, rising global food prices, rising crude oil and energy prices, and the Russia-Ukraine war adversely affected Ghana's macroeconomy with spillovers to the financial sector. The combination of adverse external shocks have exposed Ghana to a surge in inflation, a large exchange rate depreciation, and stress on the financing of the budget, which taken together have put our public debt on an unsustainable path. To address the ongoing economic crisis, the government has requested financial support from the International Monetary Fund. We expect to reach a staff-level agreement soon on an IMF program aimed at restoring macroeconomic stability and protecting the most vulnerable. To this end, as a government, we are determined to implement wide-ranging structural and fiscal reforms to restore fiscal and debt sustainability and support growth. Consistent with all the above, I announced during the budget statement presented to Parliament on November 24th that government will undertake a debt operation program. We presented to you the contours of the domestic debt exchange program yesterday. As you are aware, we established a consultative committee to work with the financial sector and incorporated their advice in our decisions. Today, we are here to officially launch Ghana's domestic debt exchange program. The objective of this program is to alleviate the debt burden in a most transparent, efficient, and expedited manner. In this context, by means of an exchange offer. The government of Ghana has been working hard to minimize the impact of the domestic debt exchange on investors holding government bonds. In particular, it does not embed any principal haircut on eligible bonds as we promise. Let me repeat this fact as plainly as I can. In this debt exchange, individuals holding domestic bonds will not lose, are not affected by the value of their investment will be retained. So let us remove any doubt and discard any speculation that the government is about to cut your retirement savings or the notional value of your investment. This is not the case. As already announced, Treasury bills are completely exempted and all holders will be paid the full value of their investment on maturity. There will be no haircut on the principal of bonds. Individuals who hold bonds would also not be affected at all. Our domestic debt operation involves an exchange for new Ghana bonds with a coupon that steps up to 10% as soon as 2025, with zero interest in 2023 and the first interest payment in 2024 and longer average maturity for the bonds. Existing domestic bonds as of 1st December 2022 will be exchanged for a set of 4 new bonds maturing in 2027, 2029, 2032, and 2037. Predetermined allocation ratios are as follows: 17% for the short bonds, 17% for the intermediate bonds, 25% for the medium-term bonds, and 41% for the long-term bonds. The annual coupon on all these new bonds will be set, as I mentioned, at 0% in 2023, 5% in 2024, and 10% from 2025 until maturity. Coupon payments will be semi-annual. For emphasis, this domestic debt exchange program will not affect individual bondholders. This domestic debt exchange is part of a more comprehensive agenda to restore debt and financial sustainability. We are also working towards a restructuring of our external indebtedness, which we will announce in due course. This is a key requirement to allow Ghana's economy to recover as fast as possible from this crisis. This is also a key requirement to secure an IMF support. We are confident that of the measures we are putting in place, including those outlined in the 2023 budget statement and underpinned by a successful IMF program, to restore debt and financial sustainability. We are also working towards a restructuring of our external indebtedness, which we will announce in due course. This is a key requirement to allow Ghana's economy to recover as fast as possible from this crisis. This is also a key requirement to secure an IMF support. We are confident that of the measures we are putting in place, including those outlined in the 2023 budget statement and underpinned by a successful IMF program, Ghana will witness a stable and thriving economy from 2023. We accordingly anticipate that inflation will be returned to single digits, ensuring that real return on these new bonds will be protected. As His Excellency the President declared in his address to the nation on 30th October 2020, and I quote, "To restore and sustain debt sustainability, we plan to reduce our total public debt to GDP ratio to some 55% in present value terms by 2028. This can only be achieved through the active participation of all key economic actors. In that perspective, we call upon all domestic debt holders to take their share in ensuring that public debt sustainability is quickly restored by participating in this exchange program. Our pledge to you all is that government will take all appropriate measures to safeguard the solvency of the financial institutions involved in the exchange. Thanks to well-targeted regulatory measures and the creation of a financial stability fund, banks, pension funds, insurance companies, fund managers, and collective investment schemes will be supported to ensure that they are able to meet the obligations to their clients as they fall due. For this reason, the Governor of the Bank of Ghana will follow suit with details of the necessary assistance in due course. We have also dialogued extensively with regulators across the financial sector, including the Securities and Exchange Commission, National Insurance Commission, and the National Pensions Regulatory Authority, to agree that regulatory forbearance will be provided to all entities whose financial position is adversely affected by virtue of participating in this exchange. This debt exchange provides an orderly way to put our economy back on track. These efforts will be complemented by fiscal measures to protect the neediest and most vulnerable in society. The government expects overwhelming support to this exchange, and in truth, the success of this necessary endeavor depends, of course, upon the public's cooperation. That would also mean the media being helpful in disseminating the right information to economic actors. We are all in this together, and we intend to get out of this together. The alternative will be a far worse economic crisis with protracted closure from international markets, including imported goods and services, and further domestic economic instability, both for the real economy and the financial sector. It would also mean depleted fiscal resources to support the neediest. Ghana is not the first nation to undertake such domestic debt operation. To illustrate the point, let me cite examples of just two countries among many others in the last decade. Jamaica resorted to such operations in the past, notably in 2010 and 2013. In both cases, it shows the sense of responsibility of the American people and proceeded through a voluntary approach. The approach was highly successful, as more than 99% of holders of domestic bonds participated in the exchange. On the contrary, in the case of Greece, the authorities chose to undertake a coercive approach, whereby a law was passed to force people into participating. We intend to avoid as much as possible the Greek approach as we strive to reach a consensual solution with our bondholders, which really is the Ghanaian way. In any case, the good news is that the domestic debt exchange has yielded positive results both in Greece and Jamaica and many others, and will certainly put our economy on a much stronger footing. Greece, as you know, has now recovered full market access. We certainly anticipate a similar success story in Ghana. I want to assure you about the government's commitment to do what is necessary to ensure that it succeeds. Ladies and gentlemen, today's announcement is a major policy step that the government is taking over the short period to restore macroeconomic stability, achieve debt sustainability, and get the economy fully back on track in order to create and protect jobs, provide and enhance incomes, foster strong and inclusive growth led by exports, and restore hope to the Ghanaian people.
Finance Minister Ken Ofori today launching the domestic debt exchange at the Ministry of Information. While he says Treasury bills and individual bond holders will not be affected, that's a question on a lot of people's minds. And also there'll be no haircuts on the principal of bonds. Joining me to break this down is Professor Lord Mensah, who is an Associate Professor of Finance at the University of Ghana Business School. Prof, good morning and thank you so much for your time. Prof, if you can hear me, good morning and thank you so much for your time. All right, it seems like we have lost Prof, but that was the Finance Minister. We want Professor Lord Mensah to break it down for us. Okay, so we know that there'll be no haircuts on the principal of bonds. Individual holders of bonds will not be affected. Treasury bills are completely exempted and all holders will be paid the full value of their investments on maturity. We also know that the government recognizes that so this is a statement that I'm reading from the Finance Minister, and he says the government recognizes that our financial institutions hold a substantial portion of these bonds. As such, the potential impact of this exchange on the financial sector has been assessed by the respective regulators. We also know that under this program, which is the Ghana's domestic debt exchange, domestic bondholders will be asked to exchange their instruments for new ones. Existing domestic bonds as of 1st December 2022 will be exchanged for a set of 4 new bonds maturing in 2027, 2029, 2032, and 2037. Seems like we have Professor Lord Mensah. Prof, good morning and thank you so much for your time.
Yes, good morning, madam, and good morning to our viewers.
All right, so you've heard what the finance minister has been saying, but I'd like you to break it down for us.
Yeah, well, it has to do with debt restructuring, whatever the case may be, whether you are increasing the maturities, whether you are reducing the coupon payments, or whether the principal will be reduced or not. It's still, debt restructuring. And so for me, yes, of course, if a country is going through economic difficulty, it is expected that there should be a room for restructuring. But then the question is this coming from the finance minister or is coming from the IMF? Or is it coming from the economic management team or is coming from the IMF? I think this is more of IMF deal that they give it to Ghana. So at least if we go by it, we should be able to get a deal from the fund. But you need to understand that, you see, the investor confidence, as far as Ghana is concerned, has been on a downside over the years. And this is going to deepen it further. And so we understand the dynamics that whatever investment that you do, you make, you are exposed to certain levels of risk. And this is one of the risks. It's a typical systemic risk. It has to do with the macro. So it's going to affect almost every financial investment in this country. And with the exception of the treasury bills that the finance minister talked about. So yes, of course, it's a sacrifice we must do, to take up this economic pain.
Yeah. All right. So he also mentioned that individual bondholders will not be affected. So first of all, we want to know who the individual bondholders are, because, for example, if I'm working with a bank and I'm an individual, but you said that I'm going to be affected somehow. So I want to know who the individual bondholders are.
Yeah, well, we have institutional investors, we have individual investors who invest directly into government bonds. So, for instance, as I sit here, I can get a number from Security and Exchange Depository Unit and then invest directly with the government.
Yeah.
Then we have institutional investors. But then in this country, when it comes to government bills, it's the institutional investors that dominate. The individual investors are very few, unless maybe the dynamics have changed, which have not probed into it.
Yeah.
But as an individual, you can invest directly with the government. So that is what the individual means. But, we all invest indirectly through, a fund or through a bank or through maybe our pensions, for instance. It's an indirect investment we are doing. So that is not an individual investment, but it's an institutional investment.
Okay.
For which, obviously, they will be affected in a way. But we don't have many individual investors in this country because most people don't understand the financial terms. So they invest, indirectly through funds and other, institutions.
All right. So now, what do you think? Okay, so what has led us to here is because our debt has become unsustainable, right? So what do you think of government's decisions to be borrowing?
Yeah, I think government borrowing will be difficult. And I'm wondering how the budget deficit that was created in the budget that we read, the 61 billion, how government is going to finance it, looking at what is on the ground now.
Yeah.
Investor confidence is going to go down. Obviously, government winning the heart of investors is going to be tough. Some investors may not have control over the situation. They will not have any choice than to invest with the government.
Yeah.
Something like pensions. Pensions cannot say we are not investing at all. And now looking at where inflation is, if you decide to take your money and put it in the house, inflation will wipe out everything within 1 year. So the best is to keep it in an investment instrument. So at least you'll be able to offset part of the negatives of inflation. Inflation is about 42%. So if you get 10%, 30% interest, then obviously you have only 10% that you are losing through purchasing power of your investment. So those institutional investors may not have choice than to keep this their money in government instruments. But individual investors may have alternatives. So maybe they may want to invest in assets that they can control themselves because, the market trust has gone down. And so you see people putting more of their money into, buildings, putting money into farms and all this. So this is what is going to happen. And government is going to struggle to raise money. That's the obvious thing on the ground.
So at the end of the day, where does this leave us? You, me, Kweku, Ama, where does this leave us?
No, I mean, it tells you that we are in a serious economic situation. The economy is depressed. Government is about to default. Therefore, restructuring is being called. And it tells you that, yes, a business person may not easily access funds because governments will borrow at a high cost. And therefore, individuals may prefer giving their money into government instruments and all those. So it's an uncertain situation. At the end of the day, inflation is up there, which when you receive your salary, it takes about 80% of it off. This is something that we need to, endure until things get better. Every economy goes through, such dynamics. And we hope that ours is not going to be a permanent one. And therefore, the measures that the finance minister and the possible sacrifices that he's calling for by sacrificing out of your true haircut and restructuring and all those, you'll get a positive outcome out of it.
All right, so you talk about a sacrifice, and also I've invested my money. Government says right now they can't give me my money and all of that. What are the other options to explore? First of all, let's say the Christmas season is coming, to make sure that I'm okay, but also to help government. So what are some of the options we can explore to make sure that we are both okay? Government and I are both okay, even though I'm saying that, okay, I want to help them, they can keep my money, but I also need to survive.
Yeah, you need to survive, but you should know that this Christmas is not going to be an ordinary Christmas. It's a Christmas that we may have to, sacrifice some of the usual Christmas things that we normally do. And so investment will not yield as expected. And then things are expensive. We know it very well. For government, that is what the government is supposed to do is exactly what they are doing. They need to free up space on the balance sheet. And one way of freezing up space is to prolong debt. So if debt are supposed to mature, the next 4 years, you can send it to maybe 10 years, possibly also reduce interest payment and spread it over the long period. And that is what they are doing.
Yeah.
And so it's a form of, a way of, relieving government from, the pressures on its balance sheet.
Prof, how long will we be in this crisis? I want your projection. How long do I need to suffer?
How long will depend on the measures that we're putting in place and how they will make impact. One thing I did not hear from the finance minister, and that's why I asked the question, whether these measures, that this restructuring is coming from himself with the economic team or is coming from IMF, is how much we are able to save for taking up this pain. How much debt is it going to free for us in the next maybe 3 years? So the measures that are being put in place will determine how long we're going to be in, such situation.
So talking about these measures, what is your assessment and what do you make of government's, debt program?
Yeah, once a government is going through distress, that room for restructuring is there. And I think, I cannot be specific to say that whether this is good or bad, but definitely is the debt that is, weighing the government down. And once we go through the restructuring and get an IMF deal, we hope that things will get better.
We hope that things will get better. We don't know when they'll get better, and we will sacrifice for the best of the country. That is Professor Lord Mensah, and he's an economist, and he's been breaking it down, what Finance Minister has been saying. We know that T-bills, individual bondholders exempted from this domestic debt exchange. It's going to be a very interesting Christmas and a couple of few years. Well, even before government announces announced modalities for its planned debt restructuring, former President John Dramani Mahama is predicting any decision on the debt operation is going to worsen the plight of the private sector. His warning is coming at a time government had assured that all treasury bills and bondholders will be spared from the debt operations. But addressing the 13th congregation of the Accra Business School, John Dramani Mahama said that can't be true.
The public sector, which, by the way, government is telling us is full, employs less than 1 million people of our country's labor force. So if our labor force is 18 point something million, and the public sector takes only 1 million or less, then you can understand the context in which I'm talking. Unfortunately, thriving parastatals that were flourishing a few years ago have been run into the ground by political appointees who have mismanaged the affairs of the state-owned enterprises. This constrains further the ability of the public sector to employ. Let me put our situation in a better context. Compensation costs in our budget for 2022 was estimated at 55.3% of tax revenue. It means of all the taxes we collect, we spend 55.3% to pay wages and salaries in the public sector alone. Amortization and interest payments consume the rest of our taxes, and even requires that we borrow to cover the total cost. This situation has compelled government this year, in the 2023 budget, to announce a freeze, or should I say a ban, on public sector employment. This makes the situation rather dire for you. It means the opportunities for employment for your cohorts can only be found in the private sector or through self-employment. That's the reality you face. Unfortunately, due to mismanagement and reckless expenditure by government over the past 5 years, the private business environment is also in a very poor state today. An ambassador of a European country who called on me recently noted that 7 companies from her country that had existed in Ghana have closed their businesses and left Ghana completely. And she also said some others have moved their offices from our dear country, Ghana, to Cote d'Ivoire. Only recently, you must have heard that Game, a retail outlet from South Africa, has announced that it's closing all its retail outlets in Ghana. Today, businesses are folding up as investors cut their losses in the wake of an almost collapsed economy.
Former President John Mahama there. Well, in barely 2 weeks, the National Democratic Congress members will be slugging it out to elect national officers. And one position that promises to present a close contest will be that of chairmanship. Now, current General Secretary Johnson Asiedu-Nketia will be seeking to unseat current chairman Samuel Ofosu-Ampofo. Joseph Akablay of our political desk reports.
Fellow Akatamansonians, comrades, friends, and sympathizers of our great party, the National Democratic Congress. Here is your general.
Johnson Asiedu-Nketia faces stiff competition from Samuel Ofosu-Ampofo, Niyama Ashite, and Samuel Yawedusei. The man, nicknamed General Mosquito, traces his political journey from his time as a member of parliament for the Winti West constituency to taking over as General Secretary in 2005, a position he has since held on to.
It has been heartwarming, the level of support I have received in the course of my work for the party. And I thank you, NDC members, for consistently returning me to power with over 80% endorsement throughout the country.
His critics, however, say he cannot escape blame for the party's abysmal performance in 2016 when it lost power and 2020 when it failed to win the polls. The General Secretary, however, believes his tenure of office has been largely successful.
The first truly democratic elections of this party were held in Koforidua. And a whole lot of national executives were voted out. That was where I came onto the scene. I did not see the defeated comrades as enemies. We kept communicating with them and encouraging them to abandon the new party they had formed to come back to their fold. That was what led to the merger of the NDP back into NDC. DFP back into NDC. It means the NDP is on the way. NDC internationally and forge closer ties with like-minded progressive parties across the globe. As a result, the NDC has the distinction of holding the vice presidential position of Socialist International.
The race with Samuel Fosuampofu took off on quite an acrimonious note. Mr. Nketia has questioned the chairman's cooperation with other executives during his tenure, especially on the decision to withdraw from the Ayawaso West Wagon by-elections.
He admits that he called me. But what is economical about me, say, he never told the press, say, offer me objective vehemently, say, he shouldn't take that decision. He must have consulted President Mahama. But President Mahama called me and said, say, Chairman Pessoa take his decision when I shouldn't allow that decision to be taken. I see. And yeah, about Ebu, it's about decision making. And to be now me consult we. Now can't Republic say me consult one more objective, but I went ahead to take that decision because I thought it was in the best interest of the party.
So there cannot be any fact to say. And in that case, if we did not collate results, the chief executive of the party is the general secretary. He runs the party day to day. All the departments of the party under him, they report directly to him. So if he's coming to contest me, why do you single the chairman out and say the chairman should be held responsible?
Ultimate responsibility.
No, but I'm saying that people have their jobs cut out for them.
Another allegation General Mosquito's campaign had to deal with was claims of the award of the party's electronic payments contracts to his son, an allegation that has been dismissed. He remains focused and greatly tipped to be a front runner for his record as a winning candidate anytime he makes the ballot.
I will lead my colleagues as your chairman to make the NDC a formidable, attractive, and modern organization that will be the party of choice for the teeming masses of Ghanaians, the youth, the women, the vulnerable in society, and people from all walks of life and background.
Years ago, she began the journey of realizing her dream of becoming an officer with one of Ghana's security agencies. But that dream was cut short after she was diagnosed with HIV. Gifty Tokono was sacked against medical advice and had to face the world all alone with her 9-year-old daughter. And the following report and this menu of our health desk tells the story of how a single mother living with HIV has dedicated her life, inspiring hope and campaigning against stigma.
16th April will forever be etched in the mind of Gifty Tokonu. She received news that changed the entire course of her life.
The school organized the blood donation to Kolebu Blood Bank. So a week or two later, our then director of study ordered all of us who could not donate to avail ourselves for sugar diabetes test, which we all avail ourselves. So when the result came out, I was told I was not having diabetes. But he asked me not to go. I should wait because we were called to the administration. I didn't know what he was going to tell me, but I waited. So when everybody left, he called me back into the office. When I entered the office, he wasn't there alone, he was there with another officer. And she just threw it into my face that, Gifty, I'm sorry to tell you you have HIV.
She was utterly devastated. Gifty was only 6 weeks away from graduation that would see her start her life as an officer with one of the security agencies. But that dream never materialized when the security agency informed her that they cannot employ her because of her HIV status.
So I decided to confirm it. So I chose police hospital. So after the test, she told me that, Gifty, you tested positive. My brother, it was eclipse of the sun. I wept, I don't know how many buckets of water that I got tears. So she allowed me to, she asked me to flow. I cried, and when I was okay, she gave me the post-test counseling. But then there was nothing like antiretroviral. So all she told me is that I should just eat well because there's no medicine. She gave me 2 envelopes. Said, this is your result. It's yours. Don't give it to anybody. But take this envelope and give to them. I don't know what was in the envelope. Whether she's asking them to sack me, I don't know. So out of curiosity, I opened the envelope on the way. And she wrote, the statement was long, but 19 years now, what I can remember is that the end tail of the letter, she said, our client is strong and healthy. Don't do anything stupid to her. She used the word stupid. So I said, okay, since she's not asking them to sack me, then I have the room to go back. So I got to the school, my colleagues were in the classroom because I went a day after they reported. So when I got there, immediately I got into the training school, he spotted me. So he asked me to follow him to the office. I did follow him, and what he told me was that order from above said you should go home. On what basis are you asking me to go home? Order from above said you should go, you are a recruit, listen to me. No written letter. I went home by verbal instruction.
The strong stigma and the fear of death consumed her. She then decided to end it all immediately.
Life became so difficult for me now. I have nothing to lay my hand on. My work has been taken away from me. Now calls to disturb me with others. So I concluded that let me take my life. A few days later, I prepared my own concoction, which I will not disclose. I prepared my own concoction. I took it. Yes, I did. I did took it. Just want to leave this world and be free. So I took it, but I went to sleep. Nothing happened. If not today that I'm telling you, no one knew I tried taking medication to kill myself because I was tired of this life.
But after this failed attempt at suicide, her life took another turn. A radio show on HIV on Joy FM will be the trigger for her open disclosure of her status and her new life as an HIV ambassador.
I think 2007, I was in Odokotrotro, that long bus, and I Joy FM.
The full feature is later tonight on JoyNews Prime on this channel, DSTV 41 and GoTV channel 144. You're still watching JoyNews Desk. Up next is business.
Hi, welcome to Business. My name is Darryl Kwao. Governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Ernest Addison, has expressed hope that the proposed debt exchange program will bring some confidence into the economy. According to him, the economic challenges which have affected many banks have led to high costs of borrowing and doing business. The governor was speaking at the annual bankers' dinner in Accra.
Guarantee debt sustainability over the medium term. A debt exchange operation is proposed to be undertaken to support the consolidation agenda. But I think that the information provided should give us a broad level of confidence that the fiscal measures as well as the debt operations should help us foster confidence, improve our debt metrics, and complement what we have been doing on the monetary policy side to bring down the pressures in the pricing levels. Ladies and gentlemen, I've discussed the significant loss of reserves that we have experienced during the year, and one of the measures that we are taking to address this issue and to gradually rebuild reserves in more sustainable ways is the launch.
Now, Deputy Minister of Lands and Natural Resources, George Mekuduka, says the sustainability of the mining sector will be based on proper governance structure. According to him, government is committed to implementing policies that will support green initiatives meant to expand Ghana's economy. He was speaking at the 2022 Ghana Mining Industry Awards.
The government of His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo is committed to a mining industry that is sustainable, viable, and responsible at all levels. As you may be aware, the issue of climate change is also here with us, and we need to take urgent steps to address this. Our environment is under threat from the activities of illegal mining in our communities, forests, reserves, and river bodies. I must say that the fight against illegal mining is one that every Ghanaian must rise and fight, and not just leave it to the government, regulators, and security agencies. For us to win this fight, every single Ghanaian, irrespective of their location, must play their role in the advocacy and whistleblowing to ensure that we safeguard our natural resources, especially river bodies, for generations yet unborn.
And that's it for business. Handing you back to Mapitso Sebidi, who's got a nice haircut in these days where we talk a lot about haircuts, Maps.
Daryl Crowd, they said no haircuts. Behave yourself. And that's how we end Joy News Desk. Our top story for today: Finance Minister launches domestic debt exchange program amid Ghana's financial crisis. And that is it for more news. You can log on to myjoyonline.com. I am Mapitso Sebidi.